we're going to actually go ahead and start off. I'd like to actually say that, being music, we've got a very relaxed atmosphere in here tonight. So if any questions come up, please feel free to raise your hand at any point. We want this to be an open discussion, and we definitely want you guys to benefit the most out of this, and benefit from the knowledge of all these experts we have here on the panel. I know one of the biggest topics, around our office is, who got access to Spotify this week, or can you send me that Pandora list? How do you feel like those types of services and new vehicles are influencing the way that brands are interacting with music?
Well, I think that it influences in a lot of different ways. I think ultimately for us, it's another way that consumers consume music. I mean, more music is being consumed than ever before. 10, 15 years ago, you had your 10 CDs and your little wallet in your car, and that's pretty much it. Now you can have 10,000 songs on your iPhone. So you have 10,000 songs on your iPhone. You can have Spotify. You can have Pandora. You can access music in different ways. And so ultimately, that helps a lot of ways. It helps brands create diversification programs so they can look for different partners and find the best one that's suited for them. And ultimately, that allows a lot of different choice, and with that choice comes innovation. So having all those different kind of players in the space now allow a lot of different kinds of innovation that could be the next big thing. I mean, when iTunes came out, it was kind of like, well, iTunes and what's an iPod? And people looked at it, it looked kind of funny, it looked like a pack of cigarettes, and you really didn't know what to do with it. It changed the world. It changed how consumers consume music. So having all these different players and different social media platforms really help diversify and create new innovation.
Yeah, and I love, how people utilize those platforms. Like I thought that, when Kanye was doing his Good Fridays and he was releasing new tracks, and then he was actually looking at all the feedback on those tracks, and then he ended up actually putting most of those tracks on Dark Fantasy, which launched a month later. He was using it for feedback, and the fans were getting excited because they were getting music early, and and he was getting feedback. And I thought what Arcade Fire did was really, really cool when they used Chrome, and you actually got a completely different music video experience that was tailor-made to your life, and it brought you back to your childhood, and it thematically tied into the song, and you wanted to pass it along to everybody you knew. And hey, if Google got a few 100,000 extra browsers downloaded to take on Firefox, good for them. Everybody's goals got taken care of. And even to be self-serving on Vivo when we do our live stream of the concerts, the one I was talking about with the auteur director and then the cool band. During that show, because of social media, you can actually vote on what you want the encore to be. Then they shut down the voting, and the band sings the encore live of what the fans voted for. So you're actually vested in the concert now that you're sitting at home on your laptop. You're not just watching it. You're like, oh, I'm going to vote on this song. Now they're going to play that song. I feel like that song, is what I wanted, and now I feel a little closer to this concert. So I think it opens up, an amazing relationship in so many ways.
Go ahead.
There's also initiatives like what Coke's doing with music right now. A couple months ago, they had an awesome program with Maroon 5 where they were holed up in a studio, I think, in like the UK, and people from around the world could literally help them write a song within the course of 24 hours from scratch to recording. And that's something, and that was an experience incubated by Coke. It wasn't, like a distributor sponsored by Coke. So you're definitely seeing more direct relationships where the brands really want to be able to kind of own these intersections between fans and brands a lot more.
And just speaking of new technology, I don't know if everybody's on turntable.fm, but get in there.
I'm obsessed.
It's absolutely incredible.
How are these types of 360 integrations affecting your selection when it comes to working with artists and actually picking out particular tracks, songs, individuals?
Yeah, we're obviously looking for a big strategic platform first. We don't go out looking for the new hottest track or the hottest artist and then retrofit a campaign around the song. That's just not how it works, or certainly not at D&G. It's about creating problem solving, coming up with a solution for a business problem, and then finding music that suits the campaign. And you're obviously looking for something that connects with people on an emotional level. And then, you know, as this is evolving very quickly, if you do happen to find an artist that suits the campaign perfectly, and they have a huge following online or through social media, just going back to the last question, you know, you get an artist like a Rihanna or a Gaga, whoever it is, who has, you know, millions and millions of followers on Twitter, Facebook, MySpace. You suddenly have access to all the social media, and it becomes a big consideration factor when you're deciding what to do. You know, you've got paid media, so, you know, we say you're spending millions of dollars on a TV buy and a print buy and an online buy, banners and whatnot, but then you have an artist that you're going to collaborate with that has millions of followers online, a huge social presence. Suddenly you're getting all this exposure through a different channel. And suddenly when you're looking at how much your media is costing you, and you're looking at what you're getting from social media just by collaborating with a cool artist, it starts kind of affecting how you, how you media buy. So it's interesting, the 360 model of just how you integrate it, whether it's competitions, promos, live events, TV, print. It just basically you're rethinking the whole model of how you create a campaign.
The two worst words you can hear in the music industry, which is selling out. How does the group feel about what qualifies as a sellout and what qualifies as a smart move from a band perspective? Maybe Dax?
Sure. Well, half that is good. Selling is good. Selling out is not good. But basically, bands are like brands now. They have brand attributes. They have things that they want to communicate to their fans. And some of them really want to exploit that. And some of them, you know, some artists come to us and say, we really want to do a brand deal. And we say, all right, what kind of brands do you want to work with? What things do you think is valuable? What brands won't you work with? So we really work with them to create a dialogue because we want to find a custom fit. So in that sense, if we were able to find a custom fit for a brand, and we go and did the same, we go with brands and try to, you know, get their goals as well. If we can find a custom fit and it's a natural relationship that's shared success, it's not really seen as selling out. There are some bands and some musicians who don't want to play in the brand space, and that's okay. But I think that nowadays, and to Colin's point earlier about the convergence of media and entertainment and advertising and branding, a lot of artists look at it as relevancy. You know, to be an artist and to be in society and be in media, people want to have brands attached to them to provide relevance. It's much like, you know, you're driving down the street and you see a guy with a Nike swoosh on the back of his truck. He's part of a tribe. And those artists realize that. They want to be a part of a tribe as well. And so brands realize that. So attaching that together sometimes works. But then again, selling is always good.
Colin, what are your thoughts on that?
I think, you know, Gen Y, again, I'm talking about a youth audience here because, you know, most of the pop music and what we're talking about skews a little younger. I think Gen Y understand that selling your music and getting exposure is a good thing. So there's, you know, selling and selling out. I think if you, by attaching yourself to brands and getting exposure and becoming famous and making money is a good thing. I think Gen Y sees it that way, and to the general public. You know, I think years ago it was kind of seen as like, you know, to be an artist you had to be struggling and poor, and, you know, that was just how you kept your credibility. Today I think it's acceptable to just be successful. That's a good thing. So the sell-out thing, there's a level of, you can get involved with brands. Again, I talk about the credibility. I think it's very, very important. One thing, again, I think I had the video there, but it's really long. A good example of, in my personal opinion, where they've stepped over the mark a little, over the line, was the new Dr. Dre, I Need a Doctor video, which it's packed with brands. And just off the top of my head, there's a gratuitous Hewlett-Packard pad shot where there's like a doctor in a lab, but he's literally to camera going like, HP, branding everyone. And then a minute later, there's Eminem up against like a water tank. Dr. Dre's inside, and he's slamming his wrist against the glass, and they actually rack focus. They rack focus onto his G-Shock watch. The whole watch takes up the frame, not once. They cut away and come back again for another one, like perfect focus on a G-Shock. That's two. Then they cut to another doctor on a laptop with a giant Beats headphones logo, which Dr. Dre and Monster own. Massive Beats headphone logo. Dr. Dre wakes up and he comes stepping on a pair of K-Swiss trainers. Cut to a tight shot of the K-Swiss trainer. And now I'm like, I've kind of had enough, and it's overstepped the mark. Then Dr. Dre gets thirsty and goes for a sip of his Gatorade, which is like a giant Gatorade bottle, full frame. And the brand's obviously paid to make a great video with high production value, but I feel like it kind of it left a bad taste in my mouth. I didn't feel good after watching the video, and I'm sure a lot of people probably felt the same way.
And what do you think was the catalyst for that? Because I think it's kind of the telephone Lady Gaga effect, where everyone saw that video. It was a huge, big budget video, 7 minutes long, Jonas Ackerland, but also had like 13 brands in it, like product placement everywhere. And I feel like even that, because that was such a huge event in terms of just like a video kind of reinventing the art form, I think it also kind of made it okay for these kind of big budget videos supported by brands with the magic slow-mo cameras.
Well, it's funny, you took the words out of my mouth about that video, and I think it also it's also all about tone, right? I mean, that video could get away with so much because of the Tarantino-esque vibe of it.
Yep.
Whereas like Dr. Dre, it's just like, it is what it is. Like, it's a different tone.
Well, and to add to that, I mean, Lady Gaga looked like she was having fun with it. I mean, she's putting Diet Coke cans in her hair, and she's making sandwiches in a prison with Miracle Whip. She clearly had fun with it. And so it was clearly over the top, and so for the tone aspect, you kind of looked at it and went, oh, of course, she's just having fun with it. Whereas, Dre and M really are supposed to communicate that brand of who they are, is from the street, authentic. That's who we are. Much like that Chrysler spot worked really well, because it was congruent with Eminem's brand. It was, I'm from the street, I'm from Detroit, I'm American, I know what it's like to work hard. So in that sense, that works. But when you start to things that don't have any congruence, it doesn't match, and consumers pick up on it. So there's a difference between like subtle integration or over-the-top integration like Lady Gaga, and then integration that just is kind of silly at some point.
Yeah, and I think it always ties back into the ultimate rule, like respect the audience. The audience is smart and savvy, and even if they're not picking up on everything, they pick up on the overall vibe of the piece of content. And if it's inauthentic, you're going to be in trouble.